Can you pretend to be my daughter's mom?
Claire Winters was wiping down the counter at Morrison's Bistro when she first heard the little girl's laughter ring through the restaurant. At 29, Claire had worked as a waitress for 6 years, ever since dropping out of art school when her mother got sick. She'd learned to smile through exhaustion, to be cheerful with difficult customers, to make the best of a life that hadn't turned out the way she'd planned. But something about that child's pure, delighted laughter made her pause and look up. A little girl, perhaps 5 years old, with blonde hair and a pink dress, was trying to balance a spoon on her nose. She was sitting with a man in an expensive navy suit who looked both amused and overwhelmed, the kind of single father who clearly loved his daughter but didn't quite know what to do with her boundless energy. "Daddy, look! I'm a seal!" the girl announced, the spoon promptly falling into her lap as she giggled. "You're definitely something," the father said with tired affection, retrieving the spoon. His eyes met Claire's across the restaurant, and she saw exhaustion there mixed with devotion. Claire approached their table with menus and her professional smile. "Good evening. Welcome to Morrison's. Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Chocolate milk," the little girl announced immediately. "With extra chocolate, please." "Piper, use your manners," her father reminded gently. "Please, may I have chocolate milk with extra chocolate?" Piper corrected herself, grinning at Claire. "You're pretty. Daddy, isn't she pretty?" The man's face flushed slightly. "Piper, that's—" "Yes, she is." "I'm sorry. My daughter has no filter." Claire laughed genuinely. "It's fine. I like honest customers. And you're pretty too, Piper. I love your dress." Piper beamed. "It's my favorite. It has pockets," she demonstrated by shoving her hands in and pulling out a small toy unicorn. "This is Sparkles. She goes everywhere with me." "She's beautiful," Claire said seriously, crouching down to Piper's eye level. "Does Sparkles like chocolate milk too?" "She loves it. But she can't drink it because she's magic, and magic unicorns only eat rainbows." "That makes perfect sense," Claire agreed solemnly, and was rewarded with Piper's delighted laughter again. When Claire returned with their drinks, she found the father looking at her with an odd expression, something between gratitude and longing. "Thank you for being kind to her," he said quietly, while Piper was busy making Sparkles dance across the table. "Most people find her exhausting. She's not exhausting. She's joyful. That's rare and precious." Claire set down his coffee. "I'm Claire, by the way. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Lucas Bennett. And you've already met Piper, who is apparently determined to share her entire life story with you." Over the course of their meal, Claire found herself drawn back to their table more than strictly necessary. Piper was charming and funny, asking questions about everything and finding wonder in ordinary things. Lucas was attentive and patient, but Claire could see the weariness in his eyes, the weight of single parenthood clearly taking its toll. "Miss Claire, do you have any kids?" Piper asked as Claire cleared their plates. "No, sweetheart. I don't. Do you want kids? Because Daddy needs someone to help with me. He tries really hard, but he gets tired and he doesn't know how to do braids. And he can't help with tea parties because he doesn't understand unicorn etiquette." "Piper," Lucas said, mortification clear in his voice, "that's not appropriate." But Claire was laughing, genuinely delighted by this child's honest assessment. "Unicorn etiquette is very important. What does your daddy do wrong?" "He doesn't use the proper voice for Lady Shimmer, and he drinks his pretend tea too fast." "You're supposed to sip slowly while discussing important unicorn business." "That is a serious mistake," Claire agreed, her eyes meeting Lucas's over Piper's head. She saw him smile, really smile, for the first time that evening. As they prepared to leave, Lucas hesitated at the counter while paying. Piper had run ahead to look at the dessert display case. "Claire, this is going to sound strange, and please feel free to say no, but would you consider having coffee with me sometime? Not a date necessarily, just, I don't know. Piper clearly adores you, and honestly, watching you with her reminded me that joy is supposed to be part of parenting, not just exhaustion. I could use someone who understands that." Claire should have said no. She barely knew this man. But something about the vulnerability in his request, The way he put his daughter's needs first made her nod. Okay, coffee sounds nice. They exchanged numbers, and Claire expected maybe one polite coffee meetup, and then nothing. Instead, Lucas texted her the next day and the day after that. They met for coffee that weekend, Piper between them, chattering about unicorns and rainbows and all the important business of being 5 years old. Her mother left 2 years ago, Lucas explained quietly, while Piper colored at the table. She said motherhood wasn't what she expected, that she needed to find herself. She sends birthday cards but hasn't visited. I've been trying to be enough for Piper, but I'm one person and I run a company and I barely know how to braid hair, let alone navigate the complex social dynamics of kindergarten friendships. You're doing better than you think, Claire said gently. Piper is happy and confident and kind. Those things don't happen by accident. She asks about her mother sometimes, especially when she sees other kids with their moms at school events. I don't know what to tell her anymore. Over the following months, Claire found herself woven into their lives in unexpected ways. Coffee meetups became regular dinners. Lucas asked if she'd come to Piper's school play because Piper wanted her there. Claire taught Piper to braid her doll's hair and explained unicorn tea party etiquette while Lucas watched with obvious relief and affection. "You're good at this," he said one evening after putting Piper to bed. They were sitting in his living room, the comfortable quiet of people who'd grown accustomed to each other's presence. Being with her, knowing what she needs. "She's an easy kid to love," Claire said honestly. "And you've raised her well." "I'm just helping." "You're doing more than helping. You're—" Lucas paused, seeming to gather courage. "Claire, I need to ask you something, and it's going to sound insane. Piper's school is having a Mother's Day celebration next month. All the kids are supposed to bring their mothers for activities and presentations. Piper is devastated because she doesn't have a mother to bring." "Oh no," Claire breathed, her heart breaking for that sweet child. "I was wondering if you would consider pretending to be her mother? Just for that day? I know it's a lot to ask, and I'll understand if you say no. But Piper keeps talking about how you'd be the best mother ever. And I thought maybe—" He ran his hand through his hair, looking vulnerable and hopeful. "Would you do that for her? Would you pretend, just for one day?" Claire looked at this man who was trying so hard to protect his daughter from hurt, at the photo on the mantel of Piper's bright, smiling face, and felt something shift in her chest. "Yes," she said. "I'll do it. For Piper." The Mother's Day celebration at Piper's school was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Claire arrived wearing a nice dress, nervous about the deception, but Piper's face when she saw Claire walk in was pure joy. "That's my mom," Piper announced proudly to her classmates, taking Claire's hand. "She's the prettiest mom here." They made crafts together, Claire helping Piper glue macaroni onto construction paper, while other mothers did the same with their children. They ate cookies Piper had decorated with alarming amounts of frosting. They watched Piper's presentation about My Mom, where Piper had drawn Claire with yellow hair and wrote, "My mom makes me laugh and understands unicorns." "When did she make this?" Claire whispered to Lucas, tears in her eyes. "Last week. She said she was drawing her wish, Mom. I didn't have the heart to correct her." Lucas looked at Claire with an expression she'd never seen before, something raw and honest. "I think she knew you'd say yes." But the hardest moment came at the end, when Piper hugged Claire tightly and whispered, "I wish you were really my mom, not just pretend." Claire held this child who'd somehow become essential to her happiness and felt her heart crack. "Me too, sweetheart." That evening, after Lucas had put an exhausted Piper to bed, he and Claire sat on his back porch, both processing the day's emotions. "I shouldn't have asked you to do that," Lucas said quietly. "It's not fair to either of you pretending something that isn't real. What if it doesn't have to be pretend?" Claire heard herself say. She turned to face him directly. "Lucas, I love Piper. I love spending time with her, teaching her things, watching her discover the world. And I've fallen in love with you too. Watching you be the father she deserves, seeing how hard you try, how much you care. This stopped being pretend for me weeks ago. I'm already her mother in every way that matters except legally." Lucas stared at her, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. "Claire, I'm a single father with a demanding job and a 5-year-old who requires unicorn tea parties. Are you sure that's what you want? I'm sure. I spent 6 years working as a waitress thinking my life hadn't turned out the way I planned. But maybe it turned out better. Maybe I needed to be exactly where I was so that one night a little girl could make me laugh and remind me what joy looks like. Maybe I needed to meet both of you to understand what family really means. Lucas pulled her close, his voice rough with emotion. I love you. I've been falling in love with you since the night you crouched down to admire Sparkles the unicorn and treated my daughter like she mattered. You see her, really see her. And you see me too, past the CEO facade to the exhausted dad who's doing his best? I see both of you, Claire confirmed. And I choose both of you if you'll have me. They told Piper the next morning, and her shriek of joy probably woke the neighbors. You're going to be my real mom? Not just pretend? Real mom, Claire promised. If that's okay with you, it's perfect. Now Daddy can finally learn proper unicorn tea party etiquette because you'll be there to teach him. Piper threw her arms around both of them. This is the best day ever. The wedding was 6 months later, intimate and perfect. Piper served as flower girl, wearing a dress with pockets that held Sparkles the unicorn. When the officiant asked if anyone had objections, Piper stood up solemnly and said, I object to anyone ever saying Claire isn't my real mom. Because she is, which made everyone cry and laugh. In his vows, Lucas spoke through tears. I asked Claire to pretend to be Piper's mother for one day because I couldn't bear to see my daughter hurt. What I didn't expect was that Claire had already been Piper's mother in her heart long before I asked. She loved my daughter before I gave her permission to, loved us both when we were still learning how to be a family. She turned our pretend into something beautifully, perfectly real. Claire's vows were simpler but equally meaningful. I was a waitress who'd given up on her dreams, going through motions without joy. Then a little girl tried to balance a spoon on her nose and asked me to understand unicorn etiquette. And her father asked if I'd pretend to be her mother just for one day. I said yes to pretending, but my heart had already said yes to being her mother forever. You both gave me back my joy, my purpose, and my family. I choose you, every day, for the rest of my life. The single dad CEO who'd whispered a desperate request to a waitress had found something far more valuable than a temporary solution. He'd found a woman who loved his daughter genuinely, who saw past his exhaustion to his devotion, who turned one day of pretending into a lifetime of reality. And the waitress who'd made his kid laugh discovered that sometimes our lives don't turn out as planned because they're actually turning out better, leading us exactly where we need to be to find the family we didn't know we were missing. Piper grew up calling Claire Mom without hesitation, never distinguishing between biological and chosen. Because in the end, being a mother isn't about biology or legal documents. It's about showing up, understanding unicorn etiquette, braiding hair with patience, and loving a child so completely that pretending becomes impossible, because the love was always real. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below about someone who became family not through blood, but through choice. Your stories inspire us all.